Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark, and the book I will review today is Three Men on the Bummel. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of the Three Men on the Bummel with leather cover designed and made by me. Actually, this is a double edition which also contains Jerome's most famous novel, Three Men in a Boat. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself, if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. Three Men on the Bummel is a Jerome K. sequel novel to Three Men in a Boat, and it was published in 1900. The three original heroes, Jay, George, and Harris, substituted the boat with bicycles and traveled through Germany. Jerome tried to replicate the success of the original novel, but as it is with most sequels, he failed. Perhaps because to the readers the writing style wasn't a novelty anymore, and they expected something a bit more original. Seems as Jerome also tried to cash in on the Victorian era bicycle craze, but he might have been a bit late, since cars were becoming the new fad. Still, Three Men on the Bummel is his second most successful work, and it enjoys decent popularity between his fans. Jerome K. wrote mostly humorous accounts during his earlier period, and later tried to write more serious novels and plays, but without much success, and that's why he will be eternally known as the author of the Three Men in a Boat. What is Three Men on the Bummel about? It is a fictitious account of three Victorian English chaps' bicycle trip through Germany, and all the mishaps, misunderstandings, and comedy travel through a foreign country often creates. A large part of it due to the travel's ignorance, but never admitting to it while retelling the adventures. The things occasionally get in my way, mountains, precipices, rivers, and such like obstructions, is no fault of mine. My instinct is correct enough. It is the earth that is wrong. I led them by the middle road, that the middle road had not character enough to continue for any quarter of a mile in the same direction, that after 3 miles up and down hill it ended abruptly in a wasp's nest, was not a thing that should have been laid to my door. A bit of the plot. The plot is a bicycle trip of the previously mentioned three friends from the original novel, Three Men in a Boat. The narrator is Jay, who represents Jerome K. himself, and then Harris and George. Of course, the three men are more mature and settled, while Jay and Harris are married with kids, but George continues his existence as an eternal bachelor. The initial plan is to take family vacations at sea, but when this fails due to disagreements and unpredictable weather, the men convince their wives that separate holidays would benefit them more. After ruling out Scotland and Switzerland, Harris suggests a bicycle trip through the Black Forest in Germany, to which George naturally objects. But after being assured that the trek will be one long cruise downhill, he agrees to participate. The next obstacle is to reach a compromise as to what type of bicycles and equipment take with them. And after a long and hard debate, this hurdle is also settled. Finally, after a few more unforeseen conflicts and misunderstandings, the three men arrive in Hamburg, and from there they go on the road, which takes them to Hanover, Berlin, Dresden, Prague, Stuttgart, Munster, and to finish in Bonn. Of course, all along the way there are quite a few misunderstandings, conflicts, disasters, amusing observations, and hilarious outcomes, which make the reading easy and pleasant. What did I think about Three Men on the Bummel? I found it entertaining and humorous in the British kind of way, silly and sarcastic. I asked myself how could people portrayed being so childish and ridiculous as the three protagonists build something as impressive as the British Empire. I think the silly humor probably was an outlet and escape from the gloom and seriousness of everyday Victorian life. And sarcasm also helps and is another mark of the British sense of humor. Unlike, for example, the Americans who prefer put down as a foundation for their jokes, which probably is a result of so many different people being thrown together. It seems that while Americans like to make fun of others, the British like to laugh at themselves. The narration of the trip is peppered with personal stories from the past, such as Harris riding a tandem bike with his wife in Holland, and when going over rough terrain, he yelled at her "hold on," and she heard "jump off." Or Jay publishing a story about the properties of helium gas, which inspired and was responsible for a boy having all his hair burned off. The three men also constantly bicker and make each other the butt of the joke. For example, when passing by the insane asylum, George says that all of Harris's friends could be found there. They use plenty of sarcasm between themselves and toward locals, but according to Jay, all the cynicism is wasted since they are German and lack sense of humor. The way I rolled and staggered about the platform, clutching wildly now at this man and now at that, must have been really comic. I don't say it was high-class humor, but it would have amused most people. Those Germans seemed to see no fun in it whatever, just seemed anxious, that was all. They are a dull lot, was all. They are a dull lot. They are a dull lot. They are a dull lot. The trio also observes English tourists with their eccentric behavior and complaining that Germans speak hardly any language but their own and can't understand them. In the Prague station, they meet a British family with the daughter who wears a short and somewhat scandalous dress because it shows her ankles. They talk French that nobody could understand and German they couldn't translate themselves. Jay points that it is the Englishman, unwilling or unable to learn a single word of any other language, who travels to the farthest corners of the globe, and out of his stupidity and ignorance spreads the English language. He further talks about the linguistics and differences between German and English. He says that because of large phonetic differences between German dialects, in 100 years, all Germans will use English to communicate with each other. And if English pronunciation was easier, it would become a world language. It was somewhat prophetic, partly thanks to the Americans as well. The book is as much about England and the English as it is about Germany and the Germans. Harris represents a more liberal person, somewhat critical of England and fascinated with other places, and George is your typical conservative Englishman, proud of the Queen and the Empire. Anybody could rule this country, Jay could rule it, says George, referring to Germany. Jay, through his observations and descriptions, draws a contrast between the British and German empires and its citizens. The book shows that English, in general, always were practical, realistic, and self-critical, maybe not so much now, and that unemotional and calculated look at themselves might be the secret of their impressive long-term past success. Further, Jay goes into a detailed description of the German personality and habits, and he mentions a German boy's affinity to duel, which he doesn't find strange in a country where he claims every man is a soldier. He talks about general German customs, traditions, and styles that are military-like and disciplined. He writes that every German citizen is a soldier and every policeman is his officer. The policeman directs him where in the street to walk and how fast to walk. At the end of each bridge stands a policeman to tell the German how to cross it. Were there no policeman there, he would probably sit down and wait till the river had passed by. J finds the general population extremely obedient and strict rule followers. Germans are people that will go anywhere and will do anything they are told. And a German can rule others but cannot rule himself. He also notices a little display of ostentation compared to England, shown in the Germans' preference for simple entertainment and homemade fashion. Further, J mentions popularity of socialist-like ideas between German folk, and this combined with the obedience to police and respect for the law gives the state a lot of power, which in return seems to do everything for its citizens. In Germany today, one hears a good deal concerning socialism, but it is a socialism that would only be despotism under another name. Individualism makes no appeal to the German voter. He is willing, nay, anxious to be controlled and regulated in all things. You get yourself born, says the German government to the German citizen. We do the rest, indoors and outdoors, in sickness and in health, in pleasure and in work. We will tell you what to do, and we will see to it that you do it. Don't you worry yourself about anything. Germany, that J travels through, is a young and emerging nation since the country didn't unify until the 1870s, and the book was written in 1900. And concluding from his observation of the Germans and their blind loyalty to the people who governed them, there is perhaps an intentional prediction and warning about the possible future trajectory for the country. The German has had the blessed fortune to be exceptionally well governed. If this continues, it will go well with him. When his troubles will begin will be when by any chance something goes wrong with the governing machine. Writing this at the dawn of the 20th century, it seems that Jerome hit the proverbial nail on the head. No book about Germany could ignore its love of beer and episodes connected to drinking it, such as a habit of pinning one's address on his jacket so when he passes out, he can be taken back to the correct home. There is this advantage about German beer. It does not make a man drunk, as the word drunk is understood in England. There is nothing objectionable about him. He is simply tired. He does not want to talk. He wants to be let alone, to go to sleep. It does not matter where, anywhere. There's also talk of German beasts, such as the large variety of strange dog breeds and cats that don't let you sleep, and how it is impossible to hit one with a rock unless you don't have an intention of doing so. And there are German horses, phlegmatic and uninterested when pulling a carriage around the town. One of the biggest curiosities in the book is the word in the title, Bummel. J's explanation is a journey, long or short, without an end, the only thing regulating it being the necessity of getting back within a given time to the point from which one started. Initially, I thought it was some Cockney slang word, but later I realized Bummel seems to be actually coined by Jerome K. Jerome and is inspired by a German word Bummel, which means to stroll or wander. To sum it up, 3 Men on the Bummel is an enjoyable escape from everyday routine, and probably for the original readers it was a nice break from sober and gloomy Victorian England. And it is an entertaining piece of classical literature, a bit less funny than its predecessor, 3 Men in a Boat, but still able to deliver more than an occasional laugh. It starts pretty well and it continues for a few chapters, but later it starts a bit to lose its pace and rhythm, maybe because Jerome himself was losing his motivation and focus and running out of ideas. But the humor and ridiculous predicaments are still there. The book turns into a comedy. The two people, English and Germans, considered by most not much fun and lacking sense of humor. But Jerome shows that English can be not serious and laugh at themselves, and Germans, when closely scrutinized, are quite entertaining. Okay, let's talk about the physical book. The book I am holding is a paperback which I transform into a hardcover, leather-bound edition. To make the cover, I use grade A, naturally tan hide. I buy from a tanner in North Spain. It is the same leather Louis Vuitton uses to make his bag, so it is top quality. I do all the processing of the leather myself. First, I designed the cover, and here I use a painting of three stooge-like men, somewhat lost and looking at the horizon, probably confused whether they should take a boat or bicycle trip. This is the back with the blurb, and inside front cover I printed a quote from the book. If you want to see a more detailed video where I explain how I transform paperback into leather hardcover, click on the link in the description. I will make a maximum of 100 editions of each title. Each one will be numbered and initialed, and the numbers will go in chronological order from 2 up, since number 1 stays with me. The price will be around $100, so if you would like me to make one for you, you can click below on my email and send me a message. I do not guarantee I will do it, since it will depend on the time I have available, access to leather, and if I can get my hands on the copy of the book. Now, if you're not willing to spend the $100 but you still want the book, what you can do is click below on the PayPal link and donate $3 or more to my channel. And for every 100 donations, I will make a lottery and draw one name, and the winner will receive the book. So if you are cheap but feel lucky, this might be the way to do it. Also, your donations give me the extra motivation to make the book reviews, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you in advance. One more thing, when you make your donation, remember to include the title of the book you would like to win. The book itself is beautiful. Visually, it has a very nice texture, it smells great, and the more you handle it, the more beautiful it will become. And it makes a great gift for yourself or somebody who appreciates books. So if you want one, don't snooze or you might lose. Well, that's it, so let's end it here. And until next time, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.